Hey everybody, 𝗟𝗵𝗁𝗂𝗍𝗂 with KBG Insurance and Financial. Hope you're having a great day. I want to make a quick video on landlord insurance today for rental properties. If you're a landlord and you have any rental properties, 1 to 4 units, I just want to go over a couple quick things to make sure you're covered properly and have the right policy in place, and hopefully inform you on some things that you didn't know about your current policy. Anything past 4 units, if you get into 5, 6 plus units, it usually becomes an apartment complex policy and starts to get into the commercial side of things. So we'll go over that in another video. But on the landlord side, it's typically for 1 to 4 unit properties. Gives you coverage for the building and the structure to rebuild it or replace it. It also gives you premises liability, medical expenses, and loss of rent coverage, which I'll go through here in a quick second. It is important to make sure you do have the proper coverage in place and policy. A couple reasons I say that is, one, in the Spokane area that we live in, there are quite a few homes that have knob and tube wiring. And so if you have knob and tube wiring, it's best to talk to your agent and be open about that and let them know you do have it, because a lot of insurance carriers don't cover knob and tube. So we represent multiple companies such as Safeco, Travelers, Grange, Allstate, and a few others, and the only one that'll do knob and tube wiring is Allstate. So had a client the other day that has a rental property and has knob and tube wiring in it, and the way I came across that is we talked about a claim that he had, and we started talking about the structure, and it was built in 1885. Well, he has a State Farm policy right now for it, and they don't cover knob and tube wiring. So we uncovered that, and if anything were to happen with this home on a claim, potentially the claim wouldn't be paid out. So, worst case scenario, the home burns down. You talk about losing your whole house and not having any insurance for it is a pretty big deal. So make sure you have the right coverage in place. Another big part of landlord policies is home sharing. So a lot of people are starting to do Airbnb and VRBO, and making sure you have the correct policy in force for that is important. A lot of landlord insurance policies don't cover Airbnbs or VRBOs. Also, homeowners insurance is separate from landlord insurance, and that doesn't cover your short-term rentals such as Airbnb as well. So making sure you have home sharing coverage in place. A company that we work with that offers that is Safeco Insurance. They have a great product for it, and they just came out with it as Airbnbs and VRBOs are starting to become a pretty big thing and very popular. So making sure you have the correct coverage in place is important there as well. So renters that do live in your properties, your tenants, make sure they have renter's insurance to cover their personal property. The personal property that's included in your landlord policy doesn't cover your tenant's property, it just covers yours. And typically you don't have as much in there because you're mainly worried about other structures, the building itself, liability, loss of rent, and medical expenses. So make sure those coverages are in place there. So as I mentioned before, the landlord insurance does cover the cost of the building to replace it or rebuild it and fix it as well. So that is one of the factors that goes into the price of your landlord insurance policy. The amount of insurance, like I said, that goes into it. And then also if you have any other structures, the amount of insurance that you want on your liability, medical expenses, and also your deductible, of course, is a factor in the amount as well. How many tenants you have, and also how many structures that you do have. So a single family rental property versus a quadplex is a little different in structure, so that could play a factor in the cost as well as one of the variables. Loss of rent, such as what I stated before. This is an important coverage, and we typically recommend going a year out for what you would get for rents, plus another 40 to 50% to cover other expenses. So, for example, if you have a claim on your home and your tenants aren't able to live there, and say it's going to take 6 to 8 months to move back in and be able to start, earning income again, you want to make sure for those 6 to 8 months you are receiving rent. So, loss of rent is a very important coverage on a landlord policy. We always extend it out to a year, but then give it another 40 to 50% as things may arise, other expenses may come up, and you want to make sure that you get made whole and don't lose out on any money. So make sure you do have the proper loss of rent coverage in place. Mentioned home sharing coverage before. Legal risk is another important coverage. This is liability that's included in the policy, and so this is if anybody tries to sue you, say for wrongful eviction, any other aspects that you weren't keeping up they wanted to say that you're not keeping up the home properly for them to live in it. This does give you coverage in there for legal risks, lawyer fees, and if anyone tries to sue you and take you to court. So that's another important one as well. And then of course medical expenses if anybody gets hurt on your property. So a couple of the big takeaways, on a landlord protection policy, of course, is your liability, loss of rent, and making sure you have the correct policy in place to cover your structure and make sure it is covered properly and insurance is enforced. So appreciate you watching. If you have any other questions, let us know. Phone number is 509-242-3244. We'll look forward to hearing from you soon. Thank you.